Chapter 504. After staying in the Sky Cloud Martial School for a day, Yi Chen rushed to the Yi family in Luo City the next morning. The Sky Cloud Martial School was 12,000 miles away from Luo City. When he was still an outer disciple, it took Yi Chen half a month to go home for the first time. But now, riding on the flying puppet, it only took him half an hour. If he didn't ride on the flying puppet and used the sword light flying skill, the time would be even shorter. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the sky above Luo City, the flying puppet slowly descended. Its huge wings kept flapping, creating a whirlwind. Young Master Chen is back. When Yi Chen jumped down from the flying puppet and stood in front of the Yi family's gate, the thousands of people in the Yi family all started to move. Some prepared for the banquet, some came out to welcome him, and some cleaned the yard. It was a very busy scene. Chen. As soon as Yi Chen entered the gate, Yi Tianhao and Shen Yuqing already walked over. Beside them were a boy and a girl about 6 or 7 years old. They looked very similar to the young Yi Chen. Father, mother. A gentle smile bloomed on Yi Chen's face. It was the smile of a son returning home. He then greeted the other elders. Good, good. At this moment, Yi Tianhao couldn't say anything. He kept repeating the word good, and then looked at Yi Chen with all his might. It seemed like he wanted to see how his son had changed in the past few years. Shen Yuqing grabbed Yi Chen's hand. His eyes were red. You little bastard. You didn't come home even once in a few years. Do you miss your father and me? Yi Tianhao came back to his senses. He glared at Shen Yuqing and said contradictory words. Our son is a man who will do great things. How can I come back just like that? But Chen, if you have time, you still have to come back. All right. Yi Chen felt warmth in his heart. After all, the people of the Sky Cloud Martial School were not related to him by blood. After a long time, they would become estranged from each other. However, home would always be home, and parents would always be parents. They would not become distant just because their son had become stronger. Big brother. Carrie. Perhaps it was because they were related by blood, or perhaps it was because they contained a trace of Yi Chen's dragon vein qi. But the boy and the girl recognized Yi Chen at first glance. They were not shy at all, hugging Yi Chen's thigh and shaking it vigorously, clamoring for him to hug them. Their rosy cheeks and watery eyes were very lovable. Chuckling, Yi Chen picked up the little boy and the little girl, one in each hand, and said to Yi Tianhao and Shen Yuqing, Father, mother, I've made you worry. Little Xian and little Xiao be good. Hearing this, Shen Yuqing's expression was incomparably happy. Hearing this, he said, Little Xiao is a bit better, but Xianer is a troublemaker, and will soon become the tyrant of Luo City. Yi Chen looked at Yi Xian. Little Xian, is it true? Big brother, I did not bully anyone. Yi Xian lowered his head, afraid that Yi Chen would not like him. Bullying people is wrong. As time goes by, people will not like you, and will gradually hate you. Do you want everyone to dislike you? Of course, Big brother is not asking you to be bullied without fighting back. As long as you do not take the initiative to bully others, it will be fine. Got it, big brother? Hee. Yi Xiaoxiao giggled at the side. Seeing Yi Xian being humiliated made her very happy. Chen, I've already asked people to prepare a banquet. Let's go inside and talk. Yi Tianhao said. Okay. Yi Chen carried Yi Xian, and Yi Xiaoxiao and followed behind. The banquet lasted until late at night. Yi Batian also attended the banquet. As for Yi Tang, he was still in the Emerald Valley, while Yi Feng had joined the South Rudra sect. Ever since the destruction of the Purple Sun sect, the disciples and elders of the Purple Sun sect had either joined the South Rudra sect or the Emerald Valley. Very few joined the Sky Cloud sect, mainly because there were too many conflicts in the past. Yi Chen no longer cared about Yi Batian. According to his father, Yi Batian had completely changed. He had started to think about the family in all aspects, and his relationship with everyone had greatly changed. Therefore, if he continued to care about it, he would seem petty. Moreover, he was no longer the little genius of the past. Although the current him was not invincible in the South Rudra region, there was almost no one who could threaten him. His goal was the entire continent and the endless ocean. Tangling with some past conflicts would undoubtedly be too narrow-minded. The past was the past, And the most important thing was the future. By the time Yi Chun returned to the Sky Cloud sect, the news had already spread like wildfire. On the 7th day of his return, the entire Windy Nation knew that Yi Chun had returned. The originally somewhat peaceful Jianghu once again exploded. Many people rushed to Luo City from far away, or to some nearby towns, just to catch a glimpse of Yi Chun's true appearance. Looking at the overcrowded Luo City, the Luo City Lord and the Yi family's patriarch, Yi Tianhao, felt somewhat helpless. However, deep down, they were actually quite proud, especially the former. He didn't have much of a relationship with Yi Chun, so he cherished the honor he received from Yi Chun even more. He firmly believed that as long as he did his best and didn't abuse his power, Yi Tianhao wouldn't let him step down. Moreover, Luo City's prospects were too good. He had already begun to discuss with Yi Tianhao about expanding Luo City and making it into a city comparable to the royal city. As for the Windy Nation's emperor, he would definitely support it. Nowadays, who would dare to offend the Yi family of Luo City? Moreover, Yi Chun's statue had been built in the Luo City's central plaza since the day before yesterday. According to the scale, it would be 100 meters tall golden statue. Big brother Yi Chun. In the hall of Yi Chun's courtyard, a lot of people had gathered. The one who spoke was fourth uncle Yi Wenhao's daughter Yi Xian. Yi Xian was half a year younger than Yi Chun, and was already 23 years old. She had a dignified appearance and a tall and slender figure. However, standing in front of Yi Chun, she seemed very reserved, and would sneak glances at him from time to time. Yi Chun faintly smiled. Little Xian, let bygones be bygones. There's no need to blindly think about it. Right now, you're also a mediocre late-clasping Yuan realm martial artist. Try a bit harder and advance to astral reaching realm as soon as possible. Don't tell me you don't have any confidence. I will. Yi Xian let out a sigh of relief. The pressure Yi Chun gave her was too great. Sitting there, she almost couldn't breathe. This wasn't because Yi Chun was doing it on purpose, but because she had too many distracting thoughts in her mind. Some elders and juniors of Yi family didn't feel the slightest bit of pressure in front of Yi Chun. They only felt that Yi Chun was very lofty. Yi Chun Wei, Yi Tang and Yi Feng both looked at Yi Chun nervously. Yi Chun was a bit helpless as he smiled at them. You guys are the same. As long as you think about the family, it will be fine. Of course, the most important thing is to increase your own power. Only by increasing your power can you strengthen the family and protect the family. Because you guys are just like me, part of the family. Thank you, Yi Chun. Yi Tang and Yi Feng were both embarrassed, feeling that they were very childish before. Alright, where's Yi Hai? Yi Hai was the one who had a good relationship with Yi Chun, and he had even given him a Yuan light ball. Yi Tianhao said, Yi Hai is the same as you. After he left with his master, he hasn't come back yet. His parents are always thinking about him. Sigh. Hearing him, Yi Chun frowned. If Yi Hai were still in South Ridra region, it wouldn't be a problem. But if he were to leave South Ridra region, then he wouldn't be able to find out anything. What he was most afraid of was running into some kind of danger. If there's a chance in the future, I'll ask someone to ask around. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days had passed. Apart from cultivating every day, Yi Chun spent most of his time chatting with his parents and siblings, trying to make up for the many years he owed them. During this time, South Ridra sect's leader Long Bai personally came with 3 youngsters. They were Rain Hero Nangong Yin and Yuan Xueme, as well as a disciple that Yi Chun didn't recognize. Without exception, all 3 had entered astral reaching realm. Their purpose was very simple: to select the 50 spectators for the martial tea gathering. Without saying a word, Yi Chun approved all of them. Long Bai and Dragon God Celestial Palace's kindness to Yi Chun would never be forgotten by Yi Chun. After South Ridra sect, North Snow Martial Academy was next. North Snow Martial Academy also had 3 young experts who had entered astral reaching realm. They were young master North Snow Suwen, Quick Blade Lynch and Tyrant Blade Yu Yu. Suwen was currently the leader of North Snow Martial Academy, and his cultivation base was at mid-astral reaching realm. Yu Yu was at early astral reaching realm. As for the ordinary-looking Lynch, his cultivation base was the highest, reaching late astral reaching realm. His body was suffused with a trace of sharp and formless blade qi. Lynch, your blade intent has already reached perfection. You have the strength to participate in the martial tea gathering. How powerful was Yi Chen's eyesight? Even if Lynch intentionally hit his blade intent, it couldn't escape Yi Chen's senses. Shui Warren, who had abdicated as Supreme Elder, smiled and said, Yi Chen, I wonder what level Lynch is at in the martial tea gathering. Yi Chen said in a low voice, I don't know this time, but last time, it should be low grade. Hearing these words, the faces of everyone in the hall changed, including those of Yi family. There was no one in Windy Nation who didn't know Lynch's strength. In fact, if there were no Yi Chen, Lynch would definitely be the #1 expert in Windy Nation. This kind of strength was actually low grade in the martial tea gathering. Moreover, it was last time. Just how high was the level of this martial tea gathering? It was simply unheard of. Finally, people from the Emerald Martial School arrived. There were 3 of them. One was the leader of the Emerald Martial School, Zhuang Qingxian. One was Lu Wuxiang, and the last one was Ji Shuiyan. Young Master Emerald Zhuang Fei was naturally also an astral reaching expert, but he didn't come. Ever since Yi Chen's complete rise, Zhuang Qingxian had already given up on dominating Windy Nation. Therefore, he abdicated to Lu Wuxiang, making him the new leader. Lu Wuxiang was a peaceful person, neither arrogant nor rash, which made him worthy of being the leader. Yi Chen, we are all from the same Windy Nation. I wonder if our leader Lu Wuxiang and Ji Shuiyan have the right to enter the top 50? The new martial tea gathering would be held in a few months, and all the martial institutions had gradually learned about the privileges of the hosts. Therefore, Zhuang Qingxian had thrown away his pride and brought his people here. In fact, he was quite worried, not knowing if Yi Chen would refuse right away or not. Yi Chen nodded. 2 or 3? 3. The other one is my son Zhuang Fei. Zhuang Qingxian said carefully. Sure. Yi Chen had originally planned to let all the young astral-reaching experts of Windy Nation watch the martial tea gathering, regardless of who it was. Of course, if they didn't come, he wouldn't take the initiative to include them. After all, apart from Windy Nation, there were many young astral-reaching experts in South Ridra region. Standing beside Zhuang Qingxian, Ji Shuiyan's expression was extremely complicated. She bit her lower lip and blankly stared at Yi Chen, looking at the little youngster who had now become a peerless genius of South Ridra region. At this moment, Yi Chen's gaze also shifted to Ji Shuiyan. Chapter 505. In the air, the two's gazes intersected. From Ji Shuiyan's gaze, Yi Chen felt a trace of regret, apology, and some indescribable emotions. She didn't choose to avoid it either, opening up her heart. Ji Shuiyan saw firmness in Yi Chen's gaze, as well as an exuberant power that could shatter everything. Before this power, everything else seemed so insignificant, like a sparrow looking up at a great pung spreading its wings to the 9 heavens. Is this the reason for your current accomplishments? Ji Shuiyan was shaken by Yi Chen's ambition. His ambition seemed boundless and limitless. How could a person with this kind of ambition lower himself to her level? He had long since forgotten the matters of the past. So it was my own wishful thinking all along. Ji Shuiyan felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from her shoulders. But why did she feel a sense of loss? However, this was no longer important. From now on, she would live for herself. She wasn't willing to sink into depravity. She didn't want to stop at astral reaching realm in the future. She wanted a vaster sky. Even if she couldn't soar to the 9 heavens, she would spread her wings with all her might. Take care. Yi Chen's words baffled everyone present. Only Ji Shuiyan knew what he meant. He had seen through her thoughts. I will. Ji Shuiyan nodded. A few days after the 3 left, the remaining 9th grade sects of Windy Nation sent people over. However, they were all rejected by Yi Chen. It wasn't that he didn't want to give them face, but that he had his own bottom line. Without reaching astral reaching realm, he wouldn't let them enter the top 50. Being so busy that he forgot about the quota of Windy Nation's young generation, Yi Chen had a rare few days of leisure. After all, the sects of other nations were a bit far from Windy Nation. On this day, beside the lake, Yi Chen was practicing his sword arts. After the last tea gathering, Yi Chen had a small gathering with the Thunder Princess and the other three. They had witnessed the achievements of the Thunder Princess in the Thunder mentality. However, Yi Chen's Sky Thunder Cut required him to fuse with the ninth style of the Sky Cloud Sword art. Therefore, he hadn't made any breakthroughs yet. Today, Yi Chen had a thought and started practicing by the lake. As he practiced and practiced, Yi Chen's feeling became more and more profound. He fused it with the state of thunder, and every sword strike was incomparably natural. It was as if there was really thunder and lightning in the sky, and there was not the slightest bit of awkwardness. At this moment, he suddenly realized that the seemingly ordinary natural environment was actually something he had yet to comprehend. He had only grasped the essence of the state of thunder, but in terms of application, he was still far from the natural world. Chi! A blue light flashed in the void, and the air was slowly cut open. The process was clearly visible. On the air profile, electric arcs flickered. There was no tyranny of thunder, only the nature of thunder. The ninth move has finally been fused successfully. The Sky Thunder Cut has officially become a profound martial skill. Letting out a breath slowly, Yi Chen put his sword back into its scabbard. However, there was not much joy on his face. Although the Sky Thunder Cut that had fused with the ninth movement of the Sky Cloud Sword art had become a profound martial skill, it was only at 50% completion. That was because Yi Chen had not learned the Thunder Profound yet. Without it, he would not be able to bring out the true power of the Sky Thunder Cut. It was like how a cleverest housewife could not cook a meal without rice. Once the Sky Thunder Cut has been completed, the Reverse Sky Thunder Cut has also become a profound martial skill. The two profound martial skills have both reached 50% completion. Together with the Gold Resonant Radiance Sword art, I now have 3 major killing attacks and 1 hidden ace attack. The hidden ace attack was the Sky Thunder Cut and the Reverse Sky Thunder Cut, which combined into a dual sword style. When the two attacks were stacked together, its power would be even more powerful than the Gold Resonant Radiance Sword art. Of course, if one had to be honest, the Sword Chi tornado formed by the Lotus Heart Sword Chi would be much more powerful. But the Lotus Heart Sword Chi was dead after all, and its potential was limited. All the sects of the Windy Nation had gone up. Next, it was the sects of the other nations in the South Rudra region. For the sects of the other nations, Yi Chen had a new standard. No 6th grade sections. A 6th grade sect already had people who could participate in the tea gathering, so it would be too unreasonable for them to take up another quota. As for the sects below the 6th grade, each sect would only have 1 quota. After all, the Windy Nation had taken up 12 of the 50 spots, so there were not many left. Young warrior Yi, could you give us 1 more spot? My Iron Ruler School is willing to pay a huge price. The leader of the 7th grade sect of the Elephant Mountain Nation revealed an expectant expression. Yi Chen shook his head. No, your sect taking up 2 spots is equivalent to taking 1 from the other sections. Alright then. Actually, he wasn't too disappointed. Having 1 spot was already enough for him. He thought that the spots would be given to the young generation of the Windy Nation, or those on good terms with Yi Chen. Outside the gate of the Yi family, another group of people descended from the sky. The one in the lead had withered yellow hair, and it was hard to tell his age. His eyes seemed to be emitting light, and he exuded an imposing aura without being angry. Wherever he went, it was his home field, and Yuan Qi revolved around his body. This was a Sea of Soul Realm expert. Guests, this way please. The steward led the group toward the meeting hall. Arriving at the meeting hall, the yellow-haired old man didn't see anyone and said unhappily, "Where is Yi Chen?" "My apologies. Young Master Chen is currently talking with people from other sections. Therefore, he told me to let the guests wait here. In that case, there's no need to trouble you. I'll go talk to him myself." The yellow-haired old man released his soul power and quickly found Yi Chen's location. He then led the group in that direction. The steward was anxious. He didn't care that the aura was suffocating him, so he chased after and said, "Young Master Chen said that no matter who you are, you have to wait here. Please obey." "Huh. You want me, a Sea of Soul Realm expert, to wait here for him? Can you bear the responsibility?" The yellow-haired old man glared at the steward. Dang dang dang. The The steward retreated a couple of steps as blood leaked out of the corner of his mouth. As a Sea of Soul realm expert, the yellow-haired old man's gaze could already hurt people. Not to mention the steward, who was only a mid-clasping Yuan realm warrior. In the yard, Yichen sensed someone using his soul power to scan over. His brows creased, and his soul power traced back to the source. He happened to see the yellow-haired old man, injuring the steward with a gaze that contained martial intent. A cold light flashed through his eyes. Footsteps could be heard as a group of people arrived at Yi Chen's yard. Entering the hall, the yellow-haired old man sized up Yi Chen. "You are Yi Chen." Indeed, Yi Chen's gaze looked straight at the yellow-haired old man. "I'm the Supreme Elder of Moonflower Nation's 7th grade sect, Swallowing Moon Sect. These are my sect's 6 most outstanding youths. Let them enter the top 50. The yellow-haired old man's name was Huang Lin, and his nickname was Yellow-Haired Spiritualist. He had entered the Sea of Soul realm in recent years. If not for the fact that Swallowing Moon Sect's astral-reaching experts were a bit lacking, he would have long announced to the outside world that Swallowing Moon Sect would become the 7th 6th grade sect in South Ridra region. As a newly advanced Sea of Soul realm expert, apart from being wild with joy, Huang Lin had become condescending, and his conduct had become increasingly tyrannical. He had volunteered to participate in this tea gathering, wanting to use his strength to fight for more quotas for his sect. He originally thought that Yi Chen would be apprehensive of his strength, and would ponder for a while before finding a way out. Unexpectedly, Yi Chen didn't even think and directly said, "You can leave." "What do you mean?" Huang Lin's eyes narrowed. Yi Chen sneered. "My meaning is clear. Your Swallowing Moon sect doesn't have a single quota. Impudent. Our Swallowing Moon sect's Supreme Elder has already given you face. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." A Swallowing Moon sect's young generation angrily said. "Impudent." Yi Chen waved his hand, and the young man was sent flying while spurting blood. The other young men were both startled and angered. However, before they could do anything, they were also sent flying while spurting blood. Yi Chen's chi contained 2 layers of power. "You're provoking me." Huang Lin intended to teach Yi Chen a lesson. Don't think that just because you're the #1 genius of South Ridra region, you're condescending and think too highly of yourself. Rip. Yi Chen didn't bother explaining. With a flick of his finger, a bullet-like lotus heart sword chi shot out. Pa! His protective Zhen Yuan shattered, and Huang Lin's shoulder was pierced. Damn it! The yellow-haired old man was shocked at first, then turned furious. He raised his Zhen Yuan, about to launch a fierce attack. Rip! Another lotus heart sword chi pierced through the yellow-haired old man's left shoulder. "If you don't get lost, I'll make you bleed." Yi Chen's cold voice was heard. "You!" Huang Lin was so embarrassed that his eyes had turned red. "Do you really want to die?" On the main seat, Yi Chen stood up. As he stood up, the sky above Luo City changed, and the sword chi was dense. Inside the hall, the yellow-haired old man only felt an invisible sword chi assaulting his face. The surrounding environment seemed to be fading away, turning into swords aimed at him. How is this possible? How can his strength be so horrifying? Huang Lin was disheartened, and the Zhen Yuan covering his whole body dispersed. He didn't even dare to look at Yi Chen. His previous arrogance had been completely shattered by Yi Chen, and all that was left was fear. He couldn't imagine how Yi Chen could be so powerful. He didn't even have the power to fight back, and had been wounded continuously. Especially the aura Yi Chen had just released. It made him feel like if he said no, his body would be separated from his body and torn apart by the sword chi. This realm had already surpassed his imagination. "Let's go." Huang Lin led the younger generation of the Swallowing Moon sect, who were dumbfounded and prepared to leave. "Don't forget to apologize to my Yi family's housekeeper." Behind him, Yi Chen's voice was like sword chi. Humiliation. At this moment, Huang Lin felt incomparably humiliated. However, no matter how humiliated he was, he had no choice but to comply. Apart from humiliation, he felt even more regret. If he had followed the normal procedure, he wouldn't have been humiliated, and he would have been able to obtain a quota for the sect. He had truly been blinded by lard. Outside the hall, Yi Xian was similarly dumbfounded. She had been back for a few days, and it was time for her to return to the Emerald Valley. Therefore, she wanted to say hello to Yichen. However, she didn't expect to see this scene. A Sea of Soul Realm expert was driven out by Yichen just like that. Moreover, Sea of Soul Realm was the realm she had always dreamed of, the goal she had always strived for. At this moment, Yichen's image in her heart became even more invincible. She knew that even if she entered the Sea of Soul Realm, she wouldn't have the qualifications to be arrogant. Chapter 506. Extreme Void. The second level of the 3 levels. If the first level of the astonishing sky was filled with all kinds of pure yuan qi, then the second level of the extreme void was formed by yuan qi. In the dusky vast space, there were countless strange sights. People who came to the extreme void for the first time would definitely think that they had come to a different place. The most common thing in the extreme void were floating mountain peaks. Some were big, some were small, some were inverted cones, some were round, and there were even some that were connected into a complex shape. No matter what the shape of the mountain was, it was actually formed by pure earth yuan qi. On the mountain peaks, some were barren and full of potholes, while some were lush and green. The forest was naturally formed by the wood yuan qi. On some of the mountain peaks there was only one big tree. The tree was so tall that it covered the entire sky like a huge umbrella. Apart from the common plants, there were also some unknown plants floating in the air. For example, there were vines that were tens of thousands of meters long. The vines were connected to the nearby mountain peaks, and there were house-sized flowers blooming on them. In the dusky space, there were also many green light ribbons. Looking from afar, these ribbons looked like strands, but when one got closer, one would realize that they were actually rivers formed by water yuan qi. These rivers crisscrossed, flowing from the mountain peaks, pouring down, passing through the sky, rushing, and then converging into an even bigger lake. This lake was just one of the thousands of lakes. In the sky there were huge fireballs. It was because of these fireballs that the extreme void shone so brightly. Other things like metal yuan qi, wind yuan qi, thunder yuan qi, dark yuan qi, bone yuan qi, they all appeared in different forms. What a magical place! It was Yichen's first time in the extreme void, and he was very shocked. Even though he had heard about the extreme void from some places, it was not as shocking as seeing it for himself. He could not imagine how the extreme void worked. In the stunning sky, the speed of comprehending the will can be doubled. In the extreme void, the speed of comprehending the profound will can be doubled. I can see that the pure yuan qi is not something that can be casually condensed into anything. Otherwise, how could it be so profound? These things are all operated and maintained by the profound. Even a stone contains the shallow profound of earth, and a stream of water contains the shallow profound of water. The more complex it is, the deeper the profound it contains. Taking a deep breath, Yichen activated his Zhen Yuan to fight against the yuan qi washing in the extreme void. The yuan qi of the extreme void sky was not as simple as it looked. It also contained a profound meaning. Without a certain level of defense, one would not be able to fight against it at all. Of course, first of all, one would have to be able to tear open the extreme void sky barrier and get in. The reason why Yichen was able to get in and stand still was because first, his attacking power was powerful enough, which allowed him to tear open the extreme void sky barrier easily. Second, he had trained his Green Lotus Sword spell to its highest level, the 15th realm. Shoo! His speed was suppressed to 1 times the speed of sound. Yichen borrowed the power from the surreal space and flew to a floating inverted cone-shaped mountain peak. The metal yuan qi is normally hidden in the earth yuan qi. It is hard to see it in the surreal space. Let's see what the metal inside the mountain has. Crack! Taking out his long sword, Yichen cut a huge hole on the surface of the mountain before flashing his body and jumping in. Inside the mountain, there were indeed metals condensed from the metal yuan qi. These metals were in different colors: gold, black, silver, yellow, pure green, and everything else. Sitting on a tall rock with his legs crossed, Yichen reached out his hand and sucked. A fist-sized piece of gold metal fell into his hand. So heavy, his wrist sank down at an indiscernible speed. Yichen was secretly shocked. Pouring his soul power into it, Yichen carefully sensed the metal profound inside, trying to see how it operated and maintained its form. Tens of thousands of miles away, a red-haired teenager sat next to an exploding volcano. The aura of the red-haired teenager was like that of a demon. It was indeed Chu Zhongtian, who had lost to Yi Chun in the tea gathering. In the last tea gathering, Chu Zhongtian was only at the late astral-reaching realm, not even at the peak level. But now, judging from the vibration frequency of his evil yuan, he had already reached the peak level of the late astral-reaching realm, and it had been a while since then. Opening his eyes, a sharp red light flashed through Chu Zhongtian's eyes. Although the evil yuan would not be that much purer from the late astral-reaching realm to the peak level, the total amount of evil yuan has increased by 20%. My evil yuan is already very powerful, and once the total amount has increased, my battling power will naturally increase as well. Not only that, my fire and earth dual martial arts have also reached the 14th level. My battling power is completely different from 2 years ago. In this tea gathering, I will beat everyone and then challenge even more powerful opponents. Chu Zhongtian was proud, and he would not allow any failure, not even once. Losing to Yi Chun was the biggest humiliation of his life, and this time, he wanted to get it back. As for the Thunder Princess and Edict Prince, they did not seem to be much of a threat to him, because they were different from Yi Chun. They seemed to be subdued by him, since his evil spirit body and evil yuan were not to be trifled with. However, just in case, I will have to do more research on profound sense martial arts. I think the remaining few months should be enough for me to beat them with absolute power. Boom! The volcano erupted even more violently. The combination of fire yuan qi and earth yuan qi was extremely powerful, containing 2 kinds of profound sense. Chu Zhongtian carefully studied the fire profound and the earth profound. In the middle of a thunderstorm in the extreme void sky, Jing Aoshuan opened her arms and floated in the air. Swoosh! Beams of lightning struck on Jing Aoshuan's body, one after another. Gradually, Jing Aoshuan was wrapped in a round electric ball, her long hair dancing in the air with a hint of dark blue. After an unknown period of time, Jing Aoshuan suddenly opened her eyes. 2 spiraling electric currents shot out, and the electric ball exploded. Extreme Emperor Tyrannical Fist. An invisible electric current rolled up as Jing Aoshuan threw out a punch, hitting right in the middle of the thunderstorm. Boom! This thunderstorm directly dissipated, turning into pure thunder origin energy that radiated outwards. Wherever it went, mountains would explode and rivers would be cut off. Extreme Emperor Tyrannical Fist 70%. But it is still not enough. I need to get more powerful. The 3 of them will not stay where they are. Taking a deep breath, Jing Aoshuan continued to search for new thunderstorms, trying to learn more about the Thunder Profound. If others knew that Jing Aoshuan had already trained her low-rank profound sense martial art to 70% and learned the Thunder Profound, they would probably have their mouths wide open. It should be known that there were very few warriors below the Sea of Souls realm who could learn the profound sense. Just this alone was enough for her to look down on everyone else. Shaoyin, this is the top sky. The planet we are on is called the Colored Glass Planet, and it is one of the smallest planets in the top sky. It is also the least dangerous. You will train here from now on. Remember, you have to be careful. Do not run around. Some of the godly lights with more than 5 types of yuan qi combined will even scare away life and death realm warriors. On the dreamlike little planet, a white-haired elder said to Li Shaoyin. Li Shaoyin had been attracted by the top sky for a long time. The pitch-black surreal space, the countless planets, the paths between them, and the nebulas formed by the huge amount of planets. It was hard for him to breathe, but it also stimulated his inner passion. One day, he would reach the sky with his own power. As if knowing that Li Shaoyin would have this kind of expression, the elder laughed and said, "But, you do not need to worry too much. I have set up a small spell here. It should be enough to protect you from the godly lights." "Thank you, Master." Coming back to his senses, Li Shaoyin thanked the elder. The white-haired old man waved his hand and said, "Your talent is extraordinary. You have the power of the stars sealed in your right hand, and the power of the wind sealed in your left hand. These two powers aren't simply the application of Yuan Qi. They are more profound existences, so don't waste your talent. Gradually explore their deeper power. Shaoran will remember. Alright, I will go first. If there is anything, just crush that light ball. Taking a step forward, the white-haired elder disappeared into the surreal space. After the white-haired elder left, Li Xiaoyan curiously looked around. This was the first time he came to the third level, the top sky. The top sky was actually the space closest to the mainland. In his eyes, the top sky was too mysterious. The maintenance and operation of those planets were simply too mysterious. Apart from that, there were some beautiful lights that cut through the darkness from time to time, rendering the dark sky extremely dreamy. Under my feet is the Glaze Star. Relying on the star power of the Glaze Star, I will definitely be able to comprehend the star profound. Unfortunately, there is no star Yuan Qi in the extreme void. Otherwise, why would I bother coming to the top sky? Getting rid of the distracting thoughts, Li Xiaoyan sat cross-legged on the stone platform in the center of the spell, and closed his eyes to feel the star power that was everywhere. These days, Yi Chen had almost no time to attend to other things. Comprehending the metal profound, accompanying his parents and siblings, and preparing for the tea gathering in the heavy mystery mountain range. He had to do everything personally. Comprehending the metal profound and chatting with his family were very enjoyable. Only the tea gathering was a little difficult. After all, the heavy mystery mountain range couldn't be compared to the Thunder City's beautiful garden. The beautiful garden was protected by a restrictive power, which was hard to shake. Although the gravity of the heavy mystery mountain range was great, it couldn't stop the destruction during a fierce battle. He couldn't just destroy one place and then move to another. Otherwise, how would he be able to enjoy the tea gathering? Therefore, Yi Chen first chose the location of the tea gathering in the heavy mystery mountain range. Then, he began to pay for the construction of the tea gathering building. The building was made of metal that was comparable to low-grade spirit weapons in the martial city. It was wrapped in an antique wooden veneer. The sparring area was at the center of the building. There was an entire battling platform there, which was 3 miles long and wide. The entire platform was made of metal that was comparable to low-grade spirit weapons, and there were layers upon layers of fortifying arrays on top of it. 10 miles away, there was also a huge tower, which was provided for the 50 young warriors who didn't have the right to participate in the tea gathering. Originally, even if Yi Chen didn't spend all of his money, it would at least cost him a lot. However, he didn't need to pay for the spirit stones, since there were way too many martial institutions and countries in the South Ridra region fighting for the spirit stones. After all, this was the glory of the South Ridra region after all. If the tea gathering location was too simple, how would the others look at the South Ridra region? It wouldn't look good at all. Therefore, he directly told Yi Chen that the spirit stones were not a problem. He could have as many as he wanted, but he had to build a tea gathering location that belonged to the South Ridra region. Plus, the tea gathering location was not a one-time thing. In the future, it might be the South Ridra region's turn. At that time, he wouldn't have to build a tea gathering location anymore. Chapter 507. Simple things could be done quickly, but complicated things would take more time. However, learning the gold profound made Yi Chen feel that time passed very fast. Every time he woke up from his state of learning, 10 days or half a month would have passed in the outside world. In order to spend more time with his family, and to digest what he had learned, Yi Chen would only go to the extreme void sky once a week. In the blink of an eye, 4 months had passed. There were only 3 days left before the martial gathering would begin, and the venue had already been completed a month ago. Right now, the martial city in the center of the heavy mysterious mountains was extremely lively. The flow of people was increasing every day, and everyone was talking about the upcoming martial gathering. Inside the tea houses and restaurants, there were countless young warriors. Of course, most of them were the young warriors from the South Ridra region. Even if they could not participate in the gathering, they still wanted to see some of the top martial geniuses from the other regions, such as the famous Edict Prince, Thunder Princess, and Astral Spirit Sun. As for the legendary warrior from the South Ridra region, they wanted to see him even more. After so many years, the South Ridra region finally had a chance to shine, and the one who had brought all of this was Yi Chun. Look, this is the martial genius who is only weaker than the Thunder Princess in the Thunder region, Beast Prince Emosiang. I heard that he had fought against Yi Chun in the last tea gathering. Where? Let me see. Inside a tea house, the young warriors from the South Ridra region were pointing at Beast Prince Emosiang excitedly. Among them were people from the Sky Cloud Martial School. This chi is so powerful. I can't even breathe in front of him. Lu Hanshan was shocked. He exchanged a look with Zhu Mei and Zhang Haoren. They couldn't help but think of Yi Chun. In the last tea gathering, Yi Chun had fought against this group of powerful warriors and became an undefeated legend. Emosiang made a face and said with a frown, "These people are too weak. I really don't know how a genius like Yi Chun could appear in this kind of environment. There will always be one or two surprises. I wonder how Yi Chun will become in this tea gathering. I really wanted to start soon." The Black Sword swordsman, who had lost to Yi Chun, was with Emosiang for some reason. After not seeing him for 2 years, he must have become even stronger. However, the other three must have improved a lot as well. Living in the same era as them is really sad. Yeah, after 2 years of cultivation, I have barely reached their level last year. Of course, if I were to really fight against them 2 years ago, I would still lose more than I win, let alone 2 years later. The population of the martial city continued to increase, and the clamor reached the sky. One day later, Thunder Princess Jing Aoxuan and Edict Prince Li Xiaoyan arrived one after another. On the same evening, Astral Spirit Son Chu Zhongtian also arrived at the overcrowded martial city. At this point, 3 of the 4 most powerful warriors of the South Ridra region had arrived. This host Yi Chun is too much. He still hasn't shown up until now. In the restaurant in the center of Martial City, Li Xiaoyan joked. Chu Zhongtian crossed his arms in front of his chest. "There's no hurry. Just show up at the tea party." It seems like Brother Chu is full of confidence. Li Xiaoyan glanced at Chu Zhongtian and slightly squinted his eyes. The latter gave him a very dangerous feeling. Sitting there, he was like a wild beast taking a nap, emitting an extremely aggressive aura. Chu Zhongtian snorted. Li Xiaoyan and Jing Aoxuan had also exceeded his expectations. One of them had an aura as deep as the starry sky, while the other had a powerful thunder intent. They were way more powerful than the last tea gathering. Of course, the more powerful the opponent, the better. Otherwise, what would be the point of beating them? Another day passed in a flash, and Yi Chun still hadn't shown up. On the street, young figures could be seen everywhere. Lynch Suwen and Yu were among them. "If I don't go out, I would really be a frog at the bottom of a well. Walking down this street, 9 out of 10 people would be more powerful than me." As the leader of the North Snow Martial Academy, Suwen seemed to have matured a lot. However, the young man's ambition had not decreased at all. Yu said, "Before, I thought that Yi Chun was purposely exaggerating the level of the tea gathering. But now, it seems like he was just being conservative. Lynch, I'm not trying to discourage you. Only with discourage will there be improvement. I don't mind." Lynch looked very calm. Hearing him, Suwen nodded silently. Speaking of which, Lynch's talent was not that high. At least in the Windy Nation, he was neither the first nor the second in terms of talent. However, his achievements were the most powerful after Yi Chun, which had a lot to do with his mentality. On another street, Lu Wuxiang looked at Zhuang Fei and Ji Shuyan. "What do you guys think?" Ji Shuyan stayed silent for a while, then said slowly, "Very powerful. None of them are weak. If they come to the Windy Nation, besides the number 1, everyone else would be ranked lower. Indeed very powerful." Zhuang Fei had to admit it. Lu Wuxiang forced a smile and said, "Walking with them, I feel like we are like defenseless kids, unable to fight back at all. Alright, let's just be spectators. This is the chance that Yi Chun has fought for us. And it is also the chance for us to see the gap between us." It was not scary to see the gap, but it was scary not knowing where it was. After 3 days, the tea gathering officially began. Thousands of miles away from the martial city, There was a flat area surrounded by mountains. The flat area occupied hundreds of miles, and the gravity was extremely strong. The plants were even taller than the trees in the sky. In the middle of the flat area, there was a huge manor built. The manor was surrounded by a 100-meter-tall wall, with thousands of clasping Yuan realm warriors guarding outside, preventing people from sneaking in. Of course, this was just a formality. If someone really wanted to sneak in, with their clasping Yuan realm cultivation, they would not be able to stop him. However, it was basically impossible for someone to be blind. It should be known that once the tea gathering was held, the manor would become a place of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Without Sea of Souls realm cultivation, no one would dare to barge in. Even Sea of Souls realm warriors would have to take care of their own faces. There were 4 entrances to the manor. Outside of each entrance, there was an attacking power testing pillar. After careful consideration, Yi Chen had raised the requirement for entering the tea gathering a bit higher. One would have to get a score of 79 before they could enter. The others were not allowed to stay in the flat area. As for standing on the tall mountains, it was up to them. Since the surrounding mountains were 200 to 300 miles away from the manor, even Sea of Souls realm warriors would not be able to see the battles inside clearly. Boom! Someone had already started the test. The first person had successfully passed, getting a score of 80. The second person had been eliminated. Lynch, it's your turn. Su Wen and Yu looked at Lynch. Lynch sucked in a deep breath, pulled out his long blade, and walked up. Boom! The long blade fiercely hacked on the crystal of the pillar, causing it to flicker crazily. Eventually he got a score of 80. Pass. The supervising astral-reaching realm warrior was expressionless. Huff. Lynch let out a breath. In fact, he could not get 80 every time. When he was not in good condition, he might not even be able to get 79. Lynch, let's go to the tower over there. Su Wen and Yu also let out a breath of relief and walked toward the magnificent tower 10 li away. After half an hour, all the young warriors had finished their tests. Although the requirement had been raised, it had been 2 years, so the number of young warriors who had the qualifications to enter the tea gathering was much higher than the last one. There were more than 460 people in total. The inside of the manor was huge, and there were a lot of tea houses. In the middle of the tea house was a 3 li long and wide battling platform. Arriving at the tea house with South Ridra region written on it, Lynch saw a lot of top young warriors from the South Ridra region. There were Li Daoxian, Yan Qihua, Tuobaku, and more than 20 others. As for Xigongsheng, he did not come. You are from the Windy Nation, right? Yan Qihua was the first to notice Lynch. There was no other reason other than the fact that he was using a blade. Lynch nodded. Indeed, there is one more in our South Ridra region. Li Daoxian chuckled. Finding a seat and sitting down, Lynch started to observe the other tea houses. Every tea house he sensed had a sky-piercing qi, which was immeasurably deep. Among them, the Thunder region, Floating Light region, and Gold Sand region had the strongest qi. The Thunder region tea house seemed to be brewing an endless thunderstorm. The Floating Light region had a starry sky-like depth, and the Gold Sand region was covered in a blood-red qi, looking like a demon. Right then Tuobaku said, "Why is Yichen not here yet? We were waiting for him." Li Daoxian said, "Perhaps he was delayed by something. No rush." It was early in the morning, and the mist in the air was drizzling on the ground under the effect of gravity. Thousands of li away, a wave of sword light was flying at 10 times the speed of sound. I did not expect to be late. Fortunately, it is not that bad. The human figure in the sword light was indeed Yi Chen. Normally, it would take him 10 days to half a month to comprehend the gold profound, but this time, it took him 20 days. Fortunately, he had finally comprehended a little bit of the profound, which allowed him to increase his gold resonant radiance sword art to 60%. Otherwise, it would be very hard for him to wake up from his meditation. Yichen felt a bit lucky. It was his first time hosting a tea gathering in the South Ridra region, so he did not want to make a fool of himself, or give people the impression that he was acting like a big shot. The heavy mysterious mountains were still in front of him, and Yi Chen's speed increased again. Just as some people in the manor started to express their dissatisfaction, a cold sword chi suddenly shrouded the area. This sword chi was different from the sword chi Yi Chun had used before. It was more aggressive, like a tornado that swept away the clouds. It appeared instantly, covering thousands of miles. It is Yi Chun. This sword chi is so scary. He is so much more powerful than the last time. As the crowd discussed, Jing Aoxuan, Li Xiaoyan, and Chu Zhongtian all changed their expressions. Last time, Yi Chun was very reserved. Without taking out his sword, it would be hard to know how powerful he was. But this time, Yi Chun seemed to be a completely different person. Without taking out his sword, he was already giving people an intense pressure. The countless qi in the air above the manor had all disappeared because of his arrival. Unable to handle the pressure anymore. Unbelievably powerful. This was the consensus of the three. Chapter 508. My apologies, everyone. Yi Chun is a bit late. I hope you can forgive me. At the wide entrance of the manor, Yi Chun, who was dressed in blue robes and had a long sword on his waist, walked in with big steps. His blue robes fluttered in the wind, as if he could shrink the ground. Every step he took covered dozens of meters. Li Xiaoyan hid his surprised expression and said with a huge distance between them, "It's good that you are here. Then, let the tea gathering begin." Yi Chun nodded and arrived on the battling platform. He looked around and said, "In the tea gathering, drinking tea and exchanging pointers are both indispensable. I wonder who is willing to be the first to go up and add some liveliness to the tea gathering." Just as Yi Chun finished his words, two people flew out of the tea house at the same time. On the way, they looked at each other in surprise before laughing out loud. Without slowing down, they landed steadily on the battling platform. "Let's stop the sparring. You two can start." Seeing the situation, Yi Chun took a few steps back. After 3 steps, his body jumped up and landed on the top floor of the tea house in South Ridra region. This time, there were a total of 23 people from South Ridra region participating in the tea gathering. Including Yi Chun, it would be 24. Seeing Yi Chun coming up, everyone greeted him. Tuobaku couldn't help but ask curiously, "Yi Chun, how come you seem to have changed from 2 years ago?" Yi Chun knew what he was talking about. Ever since he had imprinted the slaughter element on his sword spirit embryo, his chi had changed from being reserved to being extremely aggressive. Then, he had comprehended a bit of the gold profound a couple of days ago, which made his sharpness even more threatening. If it were only this, it would not be too ostentatious. However, the chi inside the manor had caused his chi to rebound, which was why it had such an effect. Smiling, Yi Chun said, "I had a breakthrough in my cultivation, and it will be like this for a long time." "I see." Li Daoxian, who was at the side, nodded. The only thing that could cause Yi Chun to change was definitely a breakthrough in the way of the sword. Right now, although Yi Chun's aura was not as reserved as before, it was even more dangerous. If the previous Yi Chun was an unfathomable swordsman, then he was now a king among swordsmen. He was not reserved, but he was even more terrifying than that. It was as if he was using a high profile to cover up an even higher profile. The sparring on the martial arts stage was extremely intense. In the past 2 years, no one had stopped advancing. They had improved from their original foundation. Rumble. The battling platform started to shake. The black sword artist and deadly sword artist had started to fight. Both of them were sword artists. But one had comprehended the slaughter sword intent, and his sword aura was overbearing. The other's sword art was extremely fast, and he specialized in deadly attacks. Besides Yi Chun, the battle between these two had attracted the attention of every sword artist present. In the end, it was still Fatal Sword Artist who was more skilled. His sword pierced through Black Sword Artist's shoulder. Although Black Sword Artist had also sent Fatal Sword Artist flying with his sword, most of his sword chi had been dissipated by his opponent. Unknowingly, 2 days had passed. During this period of time, Lynch had sparred 3 times on the stage. However, he had lost all 3 times. It was not that he was weak, but that his opponents were too strong. In fact, among the 460 people present, there were not many who were weaker than Lynch. Almost all of them were above him. Apart from Lynch, All of the young warriors of South Ridra region had gone on the stage. Among them, Tuobaku was still the most eye-catching. Although Li Daoxian and Yan Qihua had made great progress, their rankings had only risen by 1 or 2 ranks, which was not too obvious. As for Xigongsheng, who had appeared in the last South Ridra region, he did not come. Morong Qingcheng also seemed to be in closed-door training in her family. Too powerful. Every one of them is several times stronger than me. On the top floor of a tower 10 li away, 50 young warriors of South Ridra region opened their eyes wide and held their breaths. In South Ridra region, they were the pride of the heavens and were the center of attention. However, when compared to the whole South region, they were nothing. They were merely bystanders, insignificant bystanders. This opportunity was given by Yi Chen. Seeing such a frightening sparring, some of them felt depressed, thinking that no matter how hard they tried, they would never be able to reach such a realm. Some of them secretly swore that they would use their own strength to participate in the next tea gathering. Yi Chen, I will be your opponent. Feeling Yi Chen's frightening power, Yu Xian, who had always been inseparable from Li Xiaoyan, flew out. She wanted to take the lead for Li Xiaoyan and test Yi Chen's strength. Li Xiaoyan forced a smile, but deep in his heart, he was looking forward to it. He wanted to see how far Yu Xian could push Yi Chen. Putting down the teacup, Yi Chen stood up. A blue shadow flashed, and he appeared on the battling platform. Yu Xian closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his eyes were filled with a mysterious light. Pop! The air suddenly vibrated, as if he had been hit by something. This mental attack did not hit Yi Chen. He had teleported in the air, leaving 7 shadows in a straight line, and 3 of them had been shattered. Yu Xian was not in a hurry. His eyes followed Yi Chen's trajectory. This strange attack had shocked most of the people. What kind of attack is this? On the tower, Luo Hans Han and the others were even more confused. Young Master North Snow Suwen guessed. It looks like martial will, but martial will cannot be this powerful. Perhaps it is a secret art related to eyesight. After dodging for a while, Yi Chen suddenly said, "You are from the underground world?" Yu Xian's expression changed. "It has nothing to do with you." The mental attack became more and more violent. Yi Chen did not try to dodge anymore. He flicked his fingers and beams of Lotus Heart Sword Chi that were as thin as bullets shot out. Wherever they went, Yu Xian's psyche was cut off, and the air was torn apart. It covered Yu Xian's entire body, leaving no space for her to dodge. Plain armor. The surrounding air twisted, and a transparent, tight-fitting armor appeared around Yu Xian's body. The armor covered her entire body, including her head. Only her beautiful eyes could be seen. Pop, pop, pop. After 7 clear sounds, blood came out of Yu Xian's mouth corner, and the transparent armor cracked inch by inch. Yu Xian, give up. In the tea house, Li Xiaoyan gave up the idea of letting Yu Xian test Yi Chen, because he knew that even if there were 3 Yu Xian, they would not be able to test Yi Chen's bottom line. Compared to 2 years ago, Yi Chen had improved a lot. Only the sword Qi inside his body had become a few times more powerful. Yu Xian let go of the mental attacks around her and looked at Yi Chen with a bit of shock. Then, she turned around and went back to the tea house. She is from the underground world? A saint lady? Yi Chen really did not expect that Yu Xian would be able to use a mind attack. Since she could do that, she was most likely from the underground world. But judging from her strength, she should at least be a saint girl of some tribe in the underground world, which would only be stronger than Goldwind Saint Sun. I wonder if that Een Demon Master has come out or not. Yi Chen thought about the Een Demon Master, who was trapped in the underground world. He was the first master-level warrior he had seen. As for how powerful he was, he did not know. He only knew that with his current power, he would not be his opponent. He would probably have to wait until he reached the Sea of Souls realm to have the confidence to escape. 2 years, and he is already this powerful? It is beyond my imagination. Princess Jing, how confident are you? In the Thunder Region tea house, Mo Xiang's face was full of disbelief. He had not fought with Yu Xian before, but the power she had shown was definitely not weaker than his. He could not help but turn his head to ask Jing Aoshuan. Jing Aoshuan shook her head. At most 40%. But if I do not lose, I have more than 50% confidence. She had trained the Extreme King Tyrannical Fist art and Extreme King World Shocking Fist art to 70%, so it was already incredible that she admitted she was not as powerful as Yi Chun. Chapter 509. After beating Yu Xian, Yi Chun jumped lightly and went back to the top floor of the tea house in the South Ridra region. Maybe they knew that they would not be able to compete with Yi Chun, or maybe they wanted to save the top battles for the last. But after that, no one challenged Yi Chun, and no one challenged Li Xiaoyan, Jing Aoshuan, or Chu Zhongtian. Besides these four, the battles in the second tier were still going on. Luo Shan from the Gold Sand region, Mo Xiang from the Thunder region, Tuo Baku from the South Ridra region, and Lu Hun from the Floating Light region. These four were the most popular candidates for the 5th place. Once one of them managed to win, the host of the next tea gathering would be him. Yi Chun, do you think Tuo Baku has a chance? Watching the battle between Tuo Baku and Luo Shan on the battling platform, Li Daoxian could not help but ask. Yi Chun said, I am afraid not. If I have guessed it right, the next host should be Luo Shan. She has the least weaknesses, and her overall power is the most powerful. Just as he finished talking, Luo Shan, who had been fighting with Tuo Baku, made a slight noise. She used her spear to blow away the incoming lizard body and dragon head shadow, while the other short spear landed on Tuo Baku's protective Zhen Yuan layer. That spear attack was extremely powerful. Even with Tuo Baku's powerful defense, he could not help but puke out a huge chunk of blood. It seems like it really is Luo Shan. Li Daoxian forced a smile. As the young generation of the South Ridra region, there was no one who did not wish for the South Ridra region to have 2 tea gatherings in a row. It was not only an honor, but also a motivation to motivate the young generation of the South Ridra region. As for Chu Zhongtian, although he had never hosted the tea gathering before, with his arrogant personality, he would not attend the next one, unless Yi Chun, Li Xiaoyan, and Jing Aoshuan were all there. Unfortunately, it was not possible. Yi Chun shook his head. Perhaps Tuo Baku still does not want to accept the host position, because he knows that the level of the next tea gathering would be lower. You are right. He is a battle maniac, and does not care about winning or losing at all. After taking down Tuo Baku, Luo Shan was getting more and more powerful. Not only had she beaten Lu Hun, she had also beaten the super popular candidate, Mo Xiang. Right now, Luo Shan's position as the 5th warrior was unshakable. Phew! Finally, the most exciting moment of the tea gathering. After 2 years of training, I wonder who will become the true number 1 warrior of the young generation of the southern regions. Yeah. Although Chu Zhongtian lost to Yi Chun last time, he tied with Princess Jing. Princess Jing and Li Xiaoyan, as well as Li Xiaoran and Yi Chun also tied. There was no clear winner. Who do you think will win? I'm more optimistic about Yi Chun and Chu Zhongtian. One has super combat power, while the other has an outstanding physique. Do not underestimate Li Xiaoyan and Princess Jing. Li Xiaoyan's physique is also quite mysterious. Both of his hands have the wind power and the star power sealed in them, while Princess Jing has trained the thunder element Zhen Yuan and learned the profound of thunder. She is unbeatable. As the second-tier young warriors had finished their battles, everyone's spirits were lifted. They really wanted to know who would be the number 1 warrior of the southern regions, and not just a tie. Lin Qi, who was wearing white, was sitting against the wall. He could not help but glance at Yi Chun, wanting to see what kind of expression this young sword artist, who was born in the same generation as him, but had already become a legend in the South Ridra region, would have. But he was disappointed. Yi Chun's expression did not change at all. He was drinking tea while chatting with Li Daoxian and Tuo Baku, as if he did not care about the upcoming battle at all. In the tower 10 miles away, the group of people from the South Ridra region were also looking forward to it. They could finally see Yi Chun's true strength, and they wondered what kind of shocking performance he would have. After drinking his tea, Yi Chun raised his head, and his voice spread out under the amplification of his Zhen Yuan. You 3, Let the battle between us begin now. Alright. Li Xiaoyan was the first to respond. Yeah. Jing Aoshuan's voice was very calm. Only Chu Zhongtian did not respond. However, the aura above the Gold Sand region's tea house suddenly increased, and it did not seem to fit in with the surrounding world. Yi Chen, I did not have the chance to battle with you in the last tea party. This time, let's start with us. Jing Aoshuan stood up, and tiny electric arcs appeared in the air. Yi Chen smiled lightly, and was about to stand up. Someone is coming. Yi Chen looked toward the north. Meanwhile, Li Xiaoyan, Jing Aoshuan, and Chu Zhongtian had also noticed the abnormality in the north. There, the sea of clouds was tumbling endlessly, and thunder and lightning could be heard. Four shocking auras spread out, clashing with the auras of Yi Chen and the other three. All of a sudden, the airflow around the manor suddenly accelerated, turning from gentle to raging waves. Who is it? With such a huge formation, it was impossible for the others to not notice it. They all stood up and looked toward the north with serious expressions. Who are you? As the host of the tea party, Yi Chen had to maintain the image of the tea party. If he lost his momentum, it would not only be the southern region's face, but also his own. Therefore he reacted at the first moment. He stepped out, and his forehead swelled up. His shocking aura caused the clouds in the sky to change, and the wind to blow wildly. Soon, an invisible sword chi filled the sky above the manor, pointing toward the north. Everyone was scared by Yi Chen's aura. With just one movement, his aura had increased to such an extent. They could even feel that every inch of space above the manor had been occupied by the invisible sword chi. With his power alone, he was fighting against the four auras in the north. Li Xiaoyan shook his head with a bitter smile. He had to admit that the Yi Chen after 2 years had already made him feel like he could not win against him. This was something that had never happened before. In a battle between two powerful warriors, being scared before the battle even started was a huge taboo, and a sign of losing. I guess I am not his opponent. Li Xiaoyan let out a breath and sat down. Yuxian sat down as well. Jing Aoshuan took a deep look at Yi Chen, who was on the top floor of the tea house, and also sat down. With Yi Chen there, she would not have to do anything. The most shocked one would be Chu Zhongtian. Judging from the Zhen Yuan vibration, Yi Chen was still not as powerful as him. No, it was quite a bit weaker than him. However, in terms of aura, he had been completely suppressed by Yi Chen. The dark red chi that had covered a large area started to shrink, as if it had sensed the power of the invisible sword chi. Ha 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 ha. It seems like the southern region still has 1 or 2 geniuses. This is indeed out of my expectation. The sea of clouds split open, and 4 figures appeared at an extreme speed. Shoo, 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 shoo. In the blink of an eye, 4 more people appeared on the martial stage. All 4 of them had extremely powerful auras, so powerful that there was no limit to their strength. The aura they released earlier was just a test, especially the long-haired young man in the lead. His terrifying aura caused the entire world to darken, as though night had arrived. The pitch-black sky enveloped the earth, covering the sun and moon. Moreover, he had to thank Watermelon Skin and Zero for tipping him 70,000 Chidian coins, which allowed him to become the 3rd leader of this book. Chapter 510. Blood Hand Tang Jia, Shadowless Whip Chuang Hao, One Blade Ling Luohan and East Demon Xiejiqiu. Oh my god, why are they here? And 4 of them at the same time. In the tea gathering, there were young warriors from other regions outside of the southern region. The one speaking was the number 1 warrior of the Snow Iron region, Gao Hua, who was one of the smaller regions in the eastern region, which was quite close to the southern region. Another young warrior from the Snow Iron region forced a smile. It seems like someone had spread the news of the last tea gathering. With Yi Chen and the other 3's power, their power must have been exaggerated, which attracted the attention of these powerful warriors. Now they are here to suppress the southern region. Although we were born in the eastern region, compared to the open challenge of the eastern region, the tea gathering of the southern region is more suitable for us. I think we should remind Yi Chen and the rest to prepare themselves. These people are not normal people. They are all battle-hardened warriors who have walked through blood rain. After thinking for a while, Gao Hua sent a Zhenyuan message to Yi Chen and the other three. They are from the eastern region. Yi Chen's voice was transmitted over. Indeed, the one in the blood robes is called Bloodhand Tang Jia, and he has already learned the profound of blood. His battling power is extremely powerful, and he is good at direct attacks. He can easily break through the protective Zhenyuan of warriors at the same level. I heard that once hit by his palm attack, all the blood in one's body would be drained. Without top-rank blood-replenishing medicine, one would not be able to recover to the peak state within 3 to 5 years. The one with the whip around his waist is called Shadowless Whip Chuaying Hao. His movement art is just like his nickname, shadowless and shapeless. Once the whip was thrown out, the one who was hit would not even be able to see the trajectory of the whip. What was even more horrifying was that he used to be a genius killer in the eastern region. Killing normal Sea of Souls realm warriors would be as easy as eating and drinking for him. The one with the battle blade on his back is called One Blade Ling Luohan. He would only throw out one blade attack at a time, and after that, he would put the blade back into the scabbard and wait for the next attack. Therefore, people call him One Blade, because he would only throw out one blade attack at a time. He was very strict with his blade art, trying to kill with one blade attack. He was an extremely horrifying warrior, and an opponent that most people did not want to face. That long-haired young man. If you meet him, you better admit defeat. Oh, what's so great about him? Li Xiaoyan's voice rang out. Gao Hua took a deep breath and said, Xie Zhiqiu, nicknamed the Eastern Devil, is one of the 2 people who have intruded into the sky martial region of the eastern regions. Moreover, his fame is not weak in the sky martial region, and he has attracted the attention of many forces in the sky martial region. His nickname has the word devil, because he walks the devil way, and has comprehended the devil will. His luck on the devil way is extremely frightening. He has inherited the mantle of several devil kings, and he himself has a devil nature, which is very strange. When other people's children are born, they cry loudly, but when he was born he laughed loudly, which scared his parents and clansmen. After he was born he could walk on the same day. At the age of 3, he killed a servant who did not dare to fight back. When you meet him, you must admit defeat, otherwise, even if you don't die, you will be crippled. Gao Hua's voice was tinged with fear. It was obvious that Xie Zhiqiu was giving him a lot of pressure. Feast demon. Chu Zhongtian sneered disdainfully as a demonic aura spread out from his body. Thank you for your reminder. We got it. Yi Chen's voice was very calm, without a trace of emotion. Dong Hua sighed. He knew that the top geniuses would never admit defeat. No matter how frightening you were, they would not take the initiative to retreat. However, those 4 were not ordinary people. There were no tea gatherings in the eastern regions, but there were challenges. What? Nobody dares to answer? Tang Jia, who was wearing a blood-red robe, had a cold smile on his face. Yi Chen walked to the window of the tea house. You guys have intruded into our southern region's tea gathering. I wonder what you want, but if it's nothing big, then don't blame me for kicking you out. Oh, you can try. Chuaying Hao, who had a whip wrapped around his waist, grinned. The weather seemed to have turned gloomy and cold. So scary. The young warriors from the other regions all took a deep breath. This shadowless whip Chuaying Hao was like a poisonous snake that devoured its own kind. Anyone who was targeted by him would feel their blood run cold. 10 miles away, Lu Han's Han and the rest also had a serious look on their faces. The 4 warriors were all extremely powerful. Even from 10 miles away, they could still feel the horrifying aura coming from them. This Chuaying Hao was not targeting them, but they could still feel the cold sweat on their foreheads. It was the kind of death chi that only people who had killed countless people would have. The kind that was extremely close to death. I can't take it anymore. A young warrior who had reached the astral reaching realm not long ago hurried to look away, his face pale. Huh. Right then, Yi Chen's eyes met Chuaying Hao's. The sharp chi spread out from his eyes, and the sword chi spread out in all directions, as if there were countless swords floating in the air. It's you. You are that Yi Chen, right? I've heard about you. But you have to be careful in front of me. I might cripple you. Cui Yinghao was a bit surprised, but then he laughed, showing his white teeth. So reckless. Knocking on the window frame with his fingers, the slaughter sword spirit embryo inside Yi Chen's soul ocean started to vibrate. This was the first time he had actively used the slaughter sword spirit embryo. When he had just arrived at the mansion, it was only because of the rebound of the qi that leaked out a little bit. Before, he also felt that these 4 people were just testing him, so he held back a little bit. But now, he decided to give them a good lesson. Haha. A loud laughter was heard. East Demon Xie Zhiqiu glanced at Yi Chen and said with a loud voice, I heard that the level of the Southern Region Martial Tea Gathering is quite high, so I came here to see for myself. I wonder who among you would like to battle with us. Of course, if you are not qualified, don't come out and embarrass yourselves. Otherwise, you will die miserably. If you want to fight, then let's fight. We will keep you company. Jing Aoshuan said coldly. Good. Tang Jia, let's start with you. Don't let down our Eastern region's name. Xie Zhiqiu said to Blood Hand Tang Jia. Tang Jia slowly walked to the center of the battling platform. Who wants to come down and die? Shameless boasting. Edict Prince Li Xiaoyan's body flashed, and like a tornado, he appeared on the battling platform. You are barely qualified. Tang Jia glanced at Li Xiaoyan, shook his head, and then nodded. Cut the crap. Let's begin. Although Li Xiaoyan's fame had been stolen by Yi Chen, it was undeniable that he used to be the #1 warrior of the southern region's young generation for a period of time. Everyone was full of confidence in him, thinking that he would be able to defeat Tang Jia and strengthen the southern region's reputation. Let's go up. There are actually people from our eastern region here. Xie Zhiqiu, Cui Yinghao, and Ling Luohan appeared on the top floor of the Snow Iron region's tea house. Xie Zhiqiu, please sit. The #1 warrior of the Snow Iron region, Gao Hua, offered his seat on his own. His expression was very cautious, even carrying a trace of fear. Xie Zhiqiu sat down without any hesitation. The 2 seats next to him were taken by Cui Yinghao and Ling Luohan. The others all stayed far away from them. You guys have brought shame to our eastern region. Xie Zhiqiu said intentionally or unintentionally. Sweat appeared on Gao Hua's forehead. Not at all. Cui Yinghao sneered. Participating in the martial tea gathering and not being able to get a rank means that you are all trash. If this isn't shameful, then what is? This. Everyone from the Snow Iron region was angry, but they did not dare to say anything. Alright, let's talk about this later. Xie Zhiqiu looked at the battling platform. On the platform, the battle between Tang Jia and Li Xiaoyan had already begun. Boom 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 boom. Bloodhand Tang Jia's attack was extremely fierce. Once he attacked, the sky was filled with blood palm prints. Each of them was pushed by the profound of blood. As soon as Li Xiaoyan's Zhen Yuan came into contact with them, it would immediately shatter with a chi-chi sound, gradually falling into a disadvantageous position. Wind barrier. Li Xiaoyan released the wind power in his left hand, arranging layers of wind walls in front of him. These wind walls contained profound mysteries, and their insides were always in a moving state. Petty tricks. Tang Jia sneered. His body moved along with his palm, slapping on the wind wall. Pop, pop, pop. Several layers of wind walls were shattered. Tang Jia pushed out his palm, and the blood palm print shrouded towards Li Xiaoyan. The 5 blood-red Jin Yuan fingers were like pillars in the sky. 7-star crossing. Releasing the star power in his right hand, Li Xiaoyan closed his iron fan and waved it in a slanted manner. The 7-star beads were arranged according to the 7 stars of the Big Dipper. The moment they were arranged, 7 stars flashed in the sky. In the next second, the battling platform turned dark, as if it had arrived in the starry sky, leaving only the 7-star beads flickering with eternal light. Compared to 2 years ago, Li Xiaoyan's ace attack, 7-star crossing, was more than twice as powerful. When he performed this attack with all his power, the 7 stars of the Big Dipper, which was extremely far away from the continent, would shine once, transmitting the power of the 7 stars of the Big Dipper in a mysterious way. Break for me. Tang Jia was slightly surprised. This Li Xiaoyan was definitely not as simple as he looked. Even he could not figure out the operation of this ace attack. However, Tang Jie always liked to fight attacks with attacks. Therefore, the stronger Li Xiaoyan was, the more fun he would have. Pushing his blood Jin Yuan to the limit, Tang Jie suddenly roared and jumped high into the sky, throwing out a palm attack. Boom! The black starry sky shattered. 5 blood-red Jin Yuan fingers were like huge hands in the universe, grabbing and destroying the stars one after another, shattering Li Xiaoyan's 7-star crossing. At the same time, another blood-red Jin Yuan finger rose up and pointed at a certain part of the starry sky. Pooh! The darkness dispersed, and Li Xiaoyan vomited a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying. On the battling platform, Tang Jie was not unscathed. The clothes on his right arm and shoulder had been shattered, with a total of 3 circular marks on them. These were the injuries caused by the 7-star crossing. Unfortunately, only 3 of them had taken effect, and their power had been reduced by 90%. Therefore, Tang Jie was only slightly wounded. Edict Prince Li Xiaoyan lost. He really lost. All of the young warriors from the southern region could not believe their own eyes. It was only a warrior from the eastern region, and Li Xiaoyan had been defeated. Just how powerful were these people? All of a sudden, they started to lose their confidence. Perhaps, this tea gathering would become the shame of the southern region. Chapter 511. Too powerful. Be it Zhen Yuan or profound sense martial arts, they are all above mine. Only my martial intent has a slight advantage, but it is not enough to make up for the other 2. At the edge of the battling platform, Li Xiaoyan stood up with difficulty, blood dripping down from the corner of his mouth. Shoo! The blood in his chest was boiling. It was the blood Jin Yuan eroding his body and blood. If not treated in time, his body would soon die, and his blood would dry up. Shoving an upper-rank healing pill and a blood qi pill into his mouth, Li Xiaoyan activated his Zhen Yuan, trying his best to resist and erase the blood Jin Yuan. Lost. Jing Aoshuan frowned, seeming to be caught off guard by this result. This blood hand Tang Jie, is he really that powerful? Mo Xiang had already learned the identities of the 4 from Jing Aoshuan, but Li Xiaoyan was the Edict Prince, the former number 1 warrior of the young generation in the southern regions. Even if Tang Jie's power was extremely frightening, Mo Xiang could not help but feel shocked, which was hard for him to accept. Don't think too much. After me, there is still Chu Zhongtian and Yi Chen. Jing Aoshuan had already decided to join the battle. As for Yi Chen, he was the strongest among them, so he should be the last to join the battle. Chu Zhongtian's defense would be very useful at this moment, and he might even be able to turn the tables. What happened? Tang Jie was wounded? Could it be that he was too careless? Cui Yinghao made a face. In his opinion, Tang Jie should have crushed Li Xiaoyan with an overwhelming advantage, instead of fighting with the latter until both of them were wounded. Although, Tang Jie's injury was not serious. Ling Luohan glanced at Li Xiaoyan, who had been blown away, and said lightly. At the last moment, Tang Jie tried his best, but the opponent's attack had a flickering effect, which broke through his protective Zhen Yuan. Tang Jie received about 10% of the damage. Hearing this, everyone from the Snow Iron region was dumbfounded. With just a single glance, he had seen how Tang Jie had lost, as well as the characteristics of Li Xiaoyan's attacks. He had even seen how much damage Tang Jie had suffered. What kind of eyesight was this? No wonder he was called One-Blade Ling Luohan. Xia Zhiqiu smiled. It seems like the southern sector is not that bad. He turned his head. Ling Luohan, it's your turn. Ling Luohan nodded. At this moment, Tang Jie might still be able to put up a fight. However, he had still suffered some light injuries, and his battle power had been affected. Standing up, Ling Luohan crossed his arms in front of his chest and flew out. Go back and leave this to me. Hee with your blade, Ling Luohan. I'm afraid you will be able to sweep the entire southern sector. It was not only the others who were afraid of Ling Luohan, even Tang Jie was. The latter's blade art was just too horrifying. Any flaw that he could grasp would be a fatal attack. Whoosh! Tang Jie returned to the tea house in the Snow Iron region. Taking a deep look at Ling Luohan, Li Xiaoyan also flew back and sent a message to Jing Aoshuan. Be careful. Jing Aoshuan slightly nodded and landed in front of Ling Luohan like a thunderbolt. Ling Luohan raised his head and glanced at Jing Aoshuan, then said indifferently, "Make your move. My blade will not easily leave the sheath. The moment it leaves the sheath, it will be the moment you reveal your flaw." Royal Extreme Tyrannical Fist. Jing Aoshuan did not waste any time. Her first attack was a killing attack. She performed the Royal Extreme Tyrannical Fist at 70% completion. Thunder and lightning crisscrossed, filling up the heaven and earth. Within the endless thunder and lightning, a white fist appeared. This fist was like the arrival of a king, displaying the will of thunder and lightning. Retreat! Ling Luohan's body flew backward, his sharp eyes without a trace of emotion. Retreat! Seeing this scene, a lot of people were secretly happy. Jing Aoshuan's attack was about advancing without retreating. She did not retreat herself, but forced the opponent to retreat. Once the opponent retreated, her fist aura would become smoother, and her attacks would become fiercer. This time she might be able to win. However, only Jing Aoshuan and Yi Chen did not think so. Ling Luohan seemed to have retreated, but his retreat was very strange. He was obviously retreating, but it gave people the illusion that he was advancing. It was an extremely brilliant battle technique, retreating to advance, pressuring the opponent with his aura. It was equivalent to not retreating at all. Sigh. Yi Chen faintly shook his head. There was not much difference between Jing Aoshuan and Ling Luohan. The real difference might be in the battle. Although he had shown his battle techniques to the other three last time, it was still impossible to say that he had reached the top-tier level in one go. On the other hand, this Ling Luohan seemed to be a bit weaker than Blood Hand Tang Jie, but his battle techniques were above Tang Jie's. Yi Chen, can Jing Aoshuan win? Tuo Baku's eyes were filled with confusion. Battle techniques had always been his weakness. Ling Luohan's battle techniques are indeed top tier. It should be related to his habit of only throwing out one blade attack each time. If you want to beat him, you would have to make him throw out another blade attack without putting his blade back in its scabbard. Throwing out another blade attack without putting it back in its scabbard? What kind of logic is that? Tuo Baku did not understand what Yi Chen meant at all. On the contrary, Lynch seemed to be thinking about something. On the stage, Ling Luohan threw out his first blade attack. Besides a few people, no one else could see how he did it. There was not much of a difference. The only difference was who was attacking. Chu Zhongtian was powerful. His advantage did not lie in anything else, but his evil spirit body and evil yuan. Therefore, he did not have any scruples, and immediately launched a fierce attack. He was like an angry mad dragon, destroying and tearing apart anything in front of him. Ling Luohan frowned. Chu Zhongtian's aura was too crazy. Moreover, it was not Jin Yuan that he was using, but evil yuan. Clang, 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 clang. Unlike Li Xiaoyan and Jing Aoshuan, Chu Zhongtian seemed to be suppressing Ling Luohan. Occasionally, he would be hit, but it was still hard to break through his protective evil yuan and physical defense. Evil spirit body. In the tea house of the Snow Iron region, Xie Zhiqiu squinted his eyes. He had not expected that there would be an evil spirit body in the southern regions. It was a constitution that was rarely seen in 10,000 years. People with this kind of constitution were born to be invincible, and basically had no weaknesses. It was also the constitution that all kinds of geniuses feared the most, as it could almost ignore one's attack. Boom! The clothes on his chest exploded, revealing a crisscrossed sword mark. However, Chu Zhongtian did not care about it and continued to attack. You are still far from it. There will only be one person who can leave a wound on me. Come and try if you have the guts. Ling Luohan had also gotten angry. He did not believe in evil. Since the opponent had said so, then he would show it to him. All of a sudden, the frequency of his blade drawing increased as he slashed at Chu Zhongtian's protective evil yuan again and again. With his precise control, 1 out of 5 blades would be able to break through the evil yuan. This battle was extremely intense, and it lasted for a long time as well. A lot of people had a new understanding of Chu Zhongtian. It turned out that he was this powerful. Then, they remembered that Yi Chun had left a sword mark on Chu Zhongtian's chest. So they wondered what kind of level he would be at. After 2 hours, the two had consumed a lot of their evil yuan and Jun yuan, but there was still no clear winner. Although Ling Luohan might lose if his Zhen yuan was weak, Chu Zhongtian might also lose if his evil yuan was weak, because the weaker the evil yuan, the weaker his defense would be. Enough, this battle is even. Xie Zhiqiu did not want to watch this kind of battle. It was too ugly. Chu Zhongtian, get off the stage. Leave the rest to me. Yi Chen also opened his mouth, telling Chu Zhongtian to stop the battle. It was not shameful to be able to fight to this point. Hearing him, the two took a couple of steps back and stopped fighting. Chu Zhongtian snorted coldly and returned to the tea house in the Gold Sand region. Ling Luohan followed him back to the tea house in the Snow Iron region. On the way back, Cui Yinghao passed by him and landed on the battling platform. Taking off the whip from his waist, Cui Yinghao waved his arm, and the long black whip curled towards the tea house where Yi Chen was. Get the hell out! He had not liked Yi Chen for a long time. Yi Chen's attitude gave him the feeling that he could easily crush him. Boom! The long black whip was blown away, and the shocking sword qi seemed to have been suppressed for a long time before finally exploding, forming a shocking sword mark in the sky. If you can take one attack from me, I will let you leave in one piece today. The expressionless Yi Chen flew out of the tea house, his body filled with strands of sword qi. Even his fluttering hair seemed to have a horrifying penetrative power, tearing apart the air. Chapter 512. What a powerful sword qi. This person's sword arts must be extremely frightening. In the tea house of Snow Iron region, Ling Luohan's pupil shrank. Blade Dao and Sword Dao seemed to be worlds apart, but they actually had some similarities. As a top-grade blade artist, he could naturally tell that Yi Chen was not someone to be trifled with. Interesting. An evil smile appeared on Xie Zhiqiu's face. Hearing Yi Chen's words, a dense death qi appeared on Cui Yinghao's body. It was invisible and formless, and could interfere with others' judgment to a certain extent, causing them to feel panic and fear towards death. In a battle between experts, a single stray thought was enough to decide the outcome, not to mention being shrouded in death qi. Take one of your moves. Even if you have King Will in your Sea of Soul, it can only protect you from death. It was impossible for Cui Yinghao not to know that some of the top martial geniuses would have King Will in them, and he himself was one of them. However, King Will was not omnipotent. It would only take effect when one was close to death. If it was only an arm being chopped off, it would not be considered close to death. Therefore, everything depended on oneself, and others would not be able to help. Shadowless whip kill. Pushing his Zhen Yuan to the extreme, Cui Yinghao flicked his wrist, and the black whip disappeared into the void. In the next moment, within a radius of dozens of meters, there was a tearing qi that could cut through gold and jade. Under such a large amount of tearing qi, anyone who entered this range would either die or be crippled. Moreover, the profound Cui Yinghao had used was the Wind Profound, which was extremely outstanding in terms of speed and tearing effect. Humph! To be crippled by this ace of mine is your honor. Cui Yinghao used to be an assassin, so how could he not know that even a lion would use its full power to catch a rabbit? Moreover, the aura Yi Chen displayed made him feel a bit threatened. He could not afford to be careless. Therefore, he immediately used his most prized ace, hoping to cripple Yi Chen with one whip. I can't even see the whip's shadow. How can I fight? The young experts of the southern region were all anxious, and their nerves were stretched taut. Right now, Yi Chen was their last hope. Once he fell, the southern region would truly be finished, and the martial tea gathering would be marked with a mark of humiliation. Many people closed their eyes, not willing to see the following scene. This is your strength? You can't even withstand a single blow. Yi Chen's long hair fluttered in the wind as his body leaned forward. It was as if he was drifting at the edge of the world. He shuttled back and forth between the random ripping qi, and approached Cui Yinghao at an extremely fast speed. His right hand rested on the hilt of his sword. The sword was not out of its sheath, but the sword chi had already locked onto Cui Yinghao. Body sword technique. Cui Yinghao's breathing hastened. Not only Cui Yinghao, the East Demon Xie and one-blade Ling Luohan were also quite surprised. Using his body as a sword, Yi Chun was like a beam of sword light, tearing through the air without even touching his body. It was as if he had directly passed through the sword light, allowing Yi Chun to enter. Don't play tricks in front of me. Your so-called shadowless whip technique is just a joke in my eyes. No matter how hard you try, it won't disappear. As he spoke, Yi Chun himself disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Cui Yinghao. Yours is the shadowless whip. What is my sword? Chin. The second the sword was taken out of its sheath, Yi Chun waved out hundreds of sword attacks. Because of the sword's extreme speed, it seemed like he had only waved it once before putting it back into its sheath. The long black whip fell down from midair, its front end connecting with Cui Yinghao's right hand. He looked down and realized that he was not wounded at all. He then laughed in astonishment. So this is your sword art? Haha. It couldn't even cut through my protective Zhenyuan. How could it hurt me? Shoo. 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 Blood suddenly splashed out. Left shoulder, left chest, left rib, left waist, left leg, left arm, right arm. There was not a single part of Cui Yinghao's body that was unscathed. It was almost at the same time that hundreds of sword wounds appeared. Blood blossomed like scythes, covering Cui Yinghao's body. Looking from afar, Cui Yinghao looked like a human firecracker with countless bloody fireworks gathered together. Dead silence. Inside the manor, inside the tower 10 li away, there was a deathly silence. Shadowless whip Cui Yinghao could walk together with Bloodhand Tang Jie and one-blade Ling Luohan. If one were to say that he was far inferior to Tang Jie and one-blade Ling Luohan, no one would believe it even if they were beaten to death. The young experts of Snow Iron region knew that Cui Yinghao's reputation was even vaguely higher than Tang Jie and Ling Luohan. It was simply because he had killed too many Sea of Soul Realm experts. Speaking of Cui Yinghao, who didn't know that his whip rarely left anyone alive. The number one young expert of Snow Iron region, had never expected that Cui Yinghao would not be able to receive even one sword attack from Yi Chun. So he mumbled something to himself. Xie Zhiqiu's face was extremely ugly, and killing intent gradually leaked out from between his brows. Good sword art. I, one-blade Ling Luohan, would like to experience your moves. Ling Luohan couldn't bear it anymore, almost as if he had seen his prey. It was not that he had never lost before. Xie Zhiqiu had beaten him once, but Xie Zhiqiu had relied on overwhelming strength. In terms of techniques, Xie Zhiqiu was not as good as him. He believed that among the young generation, only Sky Martial region could surpass him in terms of techniques. Be it Eastern region, Southern region, Northern region, or Western region, there would not be anyone who could surpass him in terms of techniques. At most, they would be able to keep pace with him. Therefore, after seeing Yi Chun's sword art, apart from a trace of numbness, he felt even more excitement, as if he had eaten a stimulant pellet. Like a rock spreading its wings, Ling Luohan's figure leaped up and arrived in front of Yi Chun. He stretched his right hand backward, and a white light shot down. This white light did not move in a smooth arc, but was like lightning, twisting and turning, fast like an aurora. The spiraling sword light curled up as Yi Chun made his move. As soon as he made his move, the white light was cut into 3 parts, with each cut being at the turning point. The spiraling sword light's remaining power was even more ferocious, as it headed straight for Ling Luohan's chest. Not good. Ling Luohan's long blade did not have enough time to return to its scabbard, and at this moment, he would not allow it to do so. He was afraid that the moment it returned to its scabbard would be the moment he would be defeated. Therefore, Ling Luohan made an exception. Without putting his blade back into its scabbard, he waved out the second blade. Lose! Another spiraling sword light appeared from within the spiraling sword light. It was Yi Chun who had instantly changed the size of the spiraling sword light, compressing it by an inch. The outer spiraling sword light was just a shadow formed by the chi flow, and its killing power was also not bad, but it was a little less sharp. Swoosh! While in the air, Ling Luohan's chest burst out 3 feet of blood as he was blown backward. His eyes were filled with shock and horror. In terms of techniques, he had been utterly defeated. After defeating the 2 top young warriors of the eastern region, Yi Chun, who was standing in the center of the battling platform, was like a sharp sword that had been sharpened. Affected by his aura, the surrounding air gave people a sharp feeling, as if it could easily pierce through the mountains and the 9 heavens. Perhaps, he did not care about Cui Yinghao at all. All he cared about was his own blade Dao. Damn it! Cui Yinghao, who was bathed in blood, could only feel the sword qi rampaging through his meridians. If he hadn't found enough spirit energy crystals in an ancient tomb and cultivated a spirit body, his meridians would have been broken long ago, and he would have become a temporary cripple. Yi Chen shot a glance at Cui Yinghao. Honestly, Cui Yinghao and Ling Luohan were not that bad. After all, the former was a genius assassin, and the latter had defeated Jing Aoshuan and tied with Chu Zhongtian. However, the thing that the two should not have done was to play tricks with Yi Chun. Tricks, tricks, tricks. If they did not play this well, they would lose very quickly. If they had fought with Yi Chun honestly, they would not have lost so badly. Especially, in Yi Chun's eyes, the skills of the two had obviously gone down the wrong path. The former thought that if he was fast enough and stealthy enough, he would be able to kill invisibly. However, he did not know that the core of an assassin was to kill with one strike. If he did not kill with one strike, he would have to retreat 1,000 miles away. In order to become an assassin, one would have to give up a lot of things. The latter thought that he would only throw out one blade attack at a time, which would increase his efficiency. However, the saber Dao was just like the sword Dao. It was broad and profound. If he only threw out one blade attack at a time, how would he be able to push it to the peak? Yi Chen did not need to use any killing moves against these two, because if he did, he would have to fight them head-on. Since the others were playing tricks with him, there was no need for him to use brute force to break through their tricks. That way, he would not be able to take care of them in one move. Therefore, he only needed to use his normal fast sword to take care of the problem. The fast sword was very fast, without any impurities. Combined with his slaughter sword intent, its power was actually very impressive. Cutting open Cui Yinghao's protective Zhen Yuan was not a problem at all. Ling Luohan only threw out one blade attack at a time, which in Yi Chen's eyes was full of flaws. When his own sword speed was faster than his blade speed, throwing out one blade attack at a time would be a joke. The reason why he could make it this far was because the others were not as fast as him. In the tea house of Snow Iron region, Bloodhand Tang Jie's pupil shrank as he stared at Yi Chun in a daze. He had never seen such a frightening sword artist before. Shadowless Whip Cui Yinghao could not even last one sword attack, and the one-blade Ling Luohan could not even last one sword attack. Since when did such a frightening sword artist appear in the southern regions? Not bad, not bad. Xie Zhiqiu clapped his hands and stood up, looking at Yi Chun with a big smile. Your skills are rare even in the Sky Martial region. Even Cui Yinghao and Ling Luohan had lost in your hands. However, have you ever heard of this saying? No matter how good a skill is, it still needs to be based on one's own strength. Without a solid foundation, the so-called skills would just be a circus. Hearing this, Ling Luohan frowned. Xie Zhiqiu's words had dragged him into the water as well, even though he had to admit that Xie Zhiqiu's strength was not something that could be beaten with skills. Yi Chen lifted up his eyes. Come down and try, and you will know. Of course, if we don't sweep the southern regions, then coming here would be meaningless. Xie Zhiqiu waved his hand, and an invisible force covered Cui Yinghao, dragging him into the tea house. He then moved his feet slightly, and appeared in front of Yi Chun within a blink. I will beat you within 100 attacks. Xie Zhiqiu did not have the confidence to beat Yi Chun within 10 to 30 attacks, just like how he could not beat one-blade Ling Luohan within 10 attacks. Make your move. Yi Chun did not have a top-rank longsword on his waist, but 3 swords in a scabbard. Facing warriors below the Sea of Soul's realm, 3 swords in a scabbard would be enough. Boom! Xiajiqiu's attack was very sudden. Without moving his body, he threw out a fist attack. The black fist chi formed into a huge skull and attacked toward Yi Chen's face. When the skull was about to land, it opened its mouth and let out a strange howl. The miserable sound wave made people confused and unable to concentrate. Yi Chen had a firm will and was not affected at all. Before Xiajiqiu threw out his fist attack, he had already sensed the latter's fist aura. Lifting his hand, the thunder sword bounced up, and a sky thunder cut through the sound wave, shattering the skull. The sword chi and fist chi exploded. Reverse sky thunder cut. Stepping forward with his left foot, Yi Chen's killing attack followed right after. Holding the destruction sword in a reverse grip, the sword light slashed out. Not bad. Xiajiqiu was not surprised at all. As a warrior of the demonic arts, he had seen a lot of strange martial arts. He had even seen sword arts that were even more unusual than the reverse sky thunder cut. What surprised him was that the reverse sky thunder cut was obviously a reverse attack of the sky thunder cut, which complemented each other seamlessly. Pop, pop, pop. Xiajiqiu backed out. As he was backing out, layers of black chi walls appeared in front of him, canceling out the reverse sky thunder cut's attack. Demonic chi power spell. Backing out 100 meters, the black chi flow behind Xiajiqiu's back surged, turning into a bone demon. There was a red flame burning in its pupils. Although it was a flame, it did not feel hot at all. Instead, it was cold and gloomy, as if it was a strange flame made of yin chi and ice chi. Crack! Crack! The bone demon screamed into the sky, and the black sound wave spread out. Within miles, only a couple of people were not affected by the sound wave, while the rest of them were all tensed up. It's not a bloodline. It should be a demonic profound art. Demonic beast phantoms appeared behind one's back out of thin air. However, the bone demon behind Xiajiqiu was clearly formed from Jin Yuan and operated with profound. There was a fundamental difference between the two. Judging from the aura emitted by the bone demon, it was clearly not a low-grade profound martial skill, but a mid-grade profound martial skill. Its profoundness could only be created by a life and death king. Sword intent radiated from his body, annihilating the black sound wave as soon as it approached. Yi Chen indifferently gazed at Xiajiqiu. With the bone demon completely formed, Xiajiqiu took a large step forward and punched toward Yi Chen. Woo! 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 The fist chi was like a ghost wailing and wolf howling, more than 10 to 20% stronger than before. Xiajiqiu laughed heartily. Demonic chi power spell can amplify battle power 10 times. Dealing with you, it only needs 2 times. You're the one who can't do it. Of course, Yi Chen would not believe that Xiajiqiu could perform a mid-rank profound sense martial art to 100%. To be able to perform 20 to 30% would already be impressive. But from this, it could be seen that Xiajiqiu had indeed received the teachings of a couple of king warriors. Otherwise, he would not be able to have a mid-rank profound sense martial art. Golden resonant radiant sword. Holding the sword with both hands, Yi Chen's thunder sword vibrated at an astonishing frequency. The cyan sword light was instantly dyed with a layer of gold, as the sword chopped toward the opponent's fist. Clang! Blazing sparks filled the sky, and fist-sized holes appeared on the stage, looking like a beehive. The black fist chi on Xiajiqiu's fist dissipated, and he couldn't help but retreat several steps. The bone demon behind him also swayed. Xiajiqiu was beaten back. Inside Snow Iron Region's tea house, everyone was somewhat astonished. Humph! Xiajiqiu coldly snorted as his 2 fists collided in front of his chest, releasing a surging chi wave. Demon Chi 10 power spell, 3 power combined. All of a sudden, Xiajiqiu's aura became even stronger, and his fist aura became even more ferocious. Half of the stage had been dyed black, a ghostly black color. Facing this fist, Yi Chen didn't back out. Instead, he moved forward, crossing his 2 swords in front of him, performing the Sky Thunder Cut and the Reverse Sky Thunder Cut. Boom! The entire manor was shaking. A violent shock wave exploded between the 2 of them, spreading out at a speed 10 times faster than the speed of sound. It rushed out of the manor and rushed out for more than 100 miles. Crack! Crack! Countless fine cracks appeared on the rock walls of the surrounding mountains, spreading out wantonly like creepers. Even with 3 amplifications, I still can't beat him? Rubbing his feet on the stage, Xie Zhiqiu's whole body slid out. Black chi surged. Boom! A corner of the stage was blown away. Xie Zhiqiu stopped and quickly formed a seal with both of his hands. At the same time, the 2 arms of the bone demon stabbed into his shoulders. All of a sudden, his aura skyrocketed, making him look like a demon. Chapter 514. Hundreds of meters away, Yi Chen quietly watched the ever-changing Xie Zhiqiu. Strands of sword chi curled up around his body, giving off a layer of blue vibe. Hee. Xie Zhiqiu raised his head and issued a strange laughter that didn't sound like that of a human being. His arms were covered by a layer of black light film. The light film then combined into the shape of a huge arm skeleton. At the end of the skeleton was a palm leaf fan-sized skeletal palm. Each finger was a foot long, and the nails were sharp. They were curved into hooks, and were glistening with a dark gray halo. The demonic chi power top 10 spell can increase the battling power, as well as contain killing attacks. You should be proud of being able to push me to this level. Now I will completely suppress you. Shoo! Just as he finished speaking, Xie Zhiqiu jumped toward Yi Chen at an extreme speed. His right arm, which was covered by the bone demon's arm, waved out, leaving 5 black claw marks in the air. It reached Yi Chen within a blink of an eye. Chin! Yi Chen waved out a sword attack to block out the bone demon's arm. The power contained in the bone demon's arm was unimaginably huge. It was like a giant waving its palm, blowing away Yi Chen along with his sword. Get down! Xie Zhiqiu chased after him as the bone demon's arm turned into a fist, throwing out a punch. Gold resonant radiant sword. Even in the air, Yi Chen's posture did not change at all. Seeing the incoming fist, he threw out a 60% trained gold resonant radiance sword attack. Beautiful sparks flew everywhere, as Yi Chen was blown away once again. That bone demon's arm was indeed a super powerful existence. Not only did it have a horrifying defense, but its attacking power had also surpassed 60% trained profound sense martial arts. It was like the bone demon had been reborn, and its power was boundless. You have no chance at all. Lose. No one knew the terror of the demonic chi power top 10 spell better than Xie Zhiqiu. When he had gotten the jade letter containing the profound sense martial arts of the demonic chi power top 10 spell, he had been shocked by the images inside. It was only one punch, but it had shattered a falling star that had a diameter of hundreds of miles. Even normal king warriors would have to back out of its way. Crack! Bone Devil's arms became even tighter as he attacked at an extremely high speed. In the process of retreating, it was clearly impossible for Yi Chen to dodge, but he didn't need to. He raised his left hand, extended his index finger, and lightly tapped. Then a frightening scene occurred. A 1-meter-long cyan-colored finger, as thick as a thigh, burst out, and firmly pressed on Xie Zhiqiu's Bone Devil's fist. The fist of the Bone Devil, which had an extremely frightening defensive power, was like a fragile crystal. It exploded with a pop sound. Then, the Bone Devil's arm was affected, and exploded into pieces. Xie Zhiqiu's body shook violently, as he was connected to the Bone Devil's arm. Blood flowed out of his 7 apertures, and he even spouted a stream of blood from his mouth. What kind of finger technique is this? Xie Zhiqiu was sent flying like a meteor. His face was full of fright. Putting the thunder sword back into its scabbard, Yi Chen said indifferently, "Although I really don't want to say it, my strongest attack is not sword arts but finger arts." When he had returned from the underground world and traveled through the void through the undying altar, Yi Chen had already comprehended the void-shattering finger art to 30%. 30% might sound low, but the void-shattering finger art did not contain any ordinary profound, but the extremely rare space profound. Time was the king, and space was the most powerful profound. Without the time profound, space profound would be the strongest profound, and all other profounds would be restrained by it. The void-shattering finger art was not a single movement, but a set. Yichen had obtained the third movement. If the first and second movements were low-grade profound martial arts, then even if the third movement was not a mid-grade profound martial art, it would still be somewhere between mid and low-grade, and its power had completely reached the level of a mid-grade profound martial art. If it was not necessary, Yichen would not use the third movement of the void-shattering finger art, because it was his ace attack. Once it was revealed, it would be the time to kill. Right now, he used it not because he wanted to kill Xie Qiu, but because he had another ace attack that was not weaker than the third movement of the void-shattering finger art, which was the Lotus Heart Sword Qi. By itself, the Lotus Heart Sword Qi might not be as powerful as the third movement of the void-shattering finger art, but when the Lotus Heart Sword Qi turned into a Sword Qi storm, its power would not be any weaker, and its attacking range would be even greater than the third movement of the void-shattering finger art. It could be considered as Yichen's most powerful killing attack. The most powerful attack is actually not the sword art, but the finger art. So shocking. A true dragon can soar into the sky, and no one can stop it. So what if it is the East Demon Xie Qiu? He is still not an opponent for Yichen when he gets serious. So powerful. Is this Yichen's real power? Not only people from the southern region, even people from the Snow Iron region were shocked, especially Ling Luohan, Cui Yinghao and Tang Jia. They had come to this martial tea gathering to sweep the entire gathering, and everything had been going smoothly, and they had almost succeeded. But in the end, a single Yichen had ruined all of their efforts, and made them fall into such a situation. Now even the East Demon Xie Qiu was not an opponent for him, so who else could stop Yichen? I had never thought that Yichen would grow to such a horrifying level. I really wonder if he came from our Sky Cloud Martial School. Lu Hanshan's face was filled with disbelief. Zhu Mei said, "Dragons can be big or small, they can hide in swamps, they can also soar into the sky, and they can create clouds and rain." Without a doubt, Yichen is a true dragon that has descended into the Sky Cloud Martial School. Before this, it was his dormant period. Once he shows his power and grows his claws and teeth, it will be the time for him to soar into the sky. The East Demon, have not lost yet. Fire Demon God Palm. The Bone Demon behind him disappeared, merging back into his body. Xie Qiu's hands burned with a bright red flame, seeming like an inextinguishable flame. He abruptly stepped on the platform, stabilized his body, and waved both of his hands, throwing out two flame palms. Boom! Within the torrent-like flame, a sharp demon claw could be faintly seen. It was a palm that looked like a human, yet not a demon, and contained the will of fire. Seeing that Xie Qiu still had such a powerful martial art, everyone was shocked. He was indeed worthy of being the East Demon Xie Qiu. If it were someone else, they would have been defeated long ago, and would not have been able to push him to such a desperate situation. Thinking up to here, everyone could feel the terror of Yichen from the bottom of their hearts. Yichen shook his head as he pointed out his right index finger. The next second, a stone pillar-like finger appeared in the air. It was 10 meters long and 1 meter thick. The fingerprints were blurry, but it was still emitting a transparent halo like a shooting star. With one finger, this finger had destroyed Xie Qiu's flame palm power, and pressed onto his protective Zhen Yuan layer like a hot knife through butter. Boom! Finally, the battling platform could not bear the repeated attacks anymore, and was instantly torn apart, collapsing from the two sides to the center. Meanwhile, Xie Qiu was pressed onto the ground by the huge finger, his hair disheveled. At this moment, the East Demon Xie Qiu looked miserable. However, the calm Yichen made everyone suck in a cold breath from the bottom of their hearts. Even someone as powerful as Xie Qiu could not have an easy time against him, and ended up in such a miserable state. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.